Yeah, the show is called Invisible Measure. It began with a very simple contradiction, or a contradiction that I wanted to inspect. And I became interested in the material plexiglass, not so much as a material, but how it could function theoretically on our perception of something transparent. And it occurred to me that up until the point in history where glass materials were made reinforced and were made non-fragile, that transparency was always associated with fragility and therefore with a kind of elusiveness and something not so absolute. And when we think about that in terms of how the word is used today, we think about it as like this very absolute thing, something that could see, like we want something that could see through all the chaos that we've created as people. And so it started out very simply. I wanted to shoot a film in a plexiglass fabrication company, and every place that I contacted said no. And as disappointed as I was, I thought that was this really interesting irony that I should try to make something out of it. So these people that fabricate this material don't want to be seen in the act of fabricating this material. And of course online I found tons of videos of plexiglass being fabricated, and most of them came from one source, which was the plexiglass.tv official media outlet. And so what I decided to do was, so essentially, I felt like I was interacting with the fiction. I could see it from a distance, but I didn't have any access into the place itself. And that's really what I'm trying to address with the show. The first piece is all the video footage that I took from all the things that were online that I reconstructed to make advertising for a false company, for a fictional company that I invented. So that's very much the core of the project. From there, I wanted to address how we understand transparency today and how it was understood in the past. And I came across this book written by this man, Paul Scherbat, who is a Berliner, who wrote this book in 1914 called Glass Architecture. And what was striking to me was this very mystical, spiritual approach he associated with glass, almost in a very unpractical way. I mean, he didn't actually understand architecture, he didn't actually understand how to build things, but the book, because of its spiritual strength, had so much influence on how modern architecture using glass would develop in the next century. So what's interesting to me about his writings and the things that emerge from it is that is how focused it is on the actual material that allows vision, and how in the focus on the material there's this spiritual space. The next room over there shows is a sound installation that has excerpts of an interview I did with a man named Peter Eigen. Peter Eigen in 1993 founded the anti-corruption agency Transparency International. So this is a completely immaterial version of transparency. And there's nothing spiritual or mystical about it. It's completely quantifiable statistic-based analysis on how the corruption levels in the world, with the idea that you could remove transparency in this way of seeing from one position, and that you could have some kind of objective point of vision. But of course what emerges is a very small group of countries, namely America and Europe, being transparent, and the rest of the world being completely corrupt. And so I wanted to, in my interview with him, what I wanted to do was extract his kind of uses of language and kind of try to bring him into the space where he would explain why the word transparency was so important in relation to anti-corruption. And what was interesting to me, what resulted in it, is that as much as he claims that it has nothing to do with material and that it's a very kind of, that it's just a word that's a placeholder for something good, is that the only way to talk about transparency was through material metaphors. So what resulted from the sound installation is that I edited out all the points throughout the interview where he makes a metaphor. Yeah, and so that's essentially the short story of the yeah. I don't know. I could keep going.
Maybe some questions.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Here's a question. When I got to know you, you were a beautiful painter.
That's true.
What happened?
What happened? I started filling my paintings with all these things that I was thinking. I started filling my paintings with all these things that I was thinking, and then I realized that they were just abstract paintings, and then that was like a really hard thing for me to come to terms with, you know, because it felt like unfair towards the paintings, you know. I kept on saying they were like this and they were like that, and they were doing this, and then someone just looked at an abstract painting.
You say something about this Duchamp-like object. How?
Well, essentially, what I wanted to do is, I wanted to play around with the language that's used to represent a material and the material itself, and I wanted to make several variations on like how you could describe a material, and so that the idea was that the images of the objects printed on the objects would create a certain distortion of that object. Like there would be something incongruous about.
So it's printed on. I mean, I was interested in the mechanics also of making it all.
Yeah, it's printed on. Well, I mean, when I was looking, I mean, I had so much source material through this project. I was collecting all these different images and writings and stuff like that, and I became aware of like very strict conventions that are used to photograph these materials because they're actually incredibly hard to photograph, right? Like, so that they don't get glare, and so there's a whole convention around holding the thing up to what you're saying it is, right? It's supposed to be this thing that allows absolute transparency, like you can see through. The pieces are called without seams. Like the difference between plexiglass and glass is that you can join two pieces together without there being anything distorting your vision, and so I just wanted to play with various ways of representing the material.
Why did you feel the need to create a fake company and a fake promotion video?
Because essentially I'm dealing with a framework of belief, right? We say something is what it is, and if enough people kind of get around that and agree to call something what everyone else is calling it, then somehow it exists. Whether or not that material holds up to what we want it to be is a different question. And so, for me, it was really curious that I could get lots of advertising, lots of promotion for how this stuff is made, but I wasn't able to see it myself. I wasn't able to go into a factory and look at the process myself. And so I, essentially as a gesture, as like an art gesture in the space, it functions as this, like why am I being sold this material? Why am I being given all the attributes and all the successes of this material?
Why do you think they were so unwilling to let you film?
I mean, I called something like 15 or 16 different places and talked to them all on the phone. I mean, of course, I can go in there as a customer. Like, obviously, I got these things made. But when I asked to go into the factory, he said no. I think there's some safety issues, but essentially, maybe 40% of the people I called out of 15 said that they weren't willing to expose the secrets of their trade. Like they have specific things that processes they've developed themselves, or things like that they didn't want to expose, which was strange to me because I don't really think that they make very different things. They all kind of make the same thing.
Is there a website?
The website is coming. It's not up yet. Yeah.
But there will be a website.
Yes, there is a website
What's
that. Sorry.
What is it?
Oh, well, the component of the website is to like circulate it back online, right? So like if you're looking for, the website is called the name of the company. So if you're searching for plexiglass in Berlin, if you want to make something, like my website will come up, and you'll see this advertising that leads to the rest of the story of this. So it's kind of creating a glitch in the actual world too, you know, like.
Not only the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a different way of kind of experiencing the various stories that I'm trying to tell in the show.
Beny, how about the painting in the other room?
The painting in the other room is a reproduction of a painting that is hanging in Peter Eigen's office. He's very proud. He likes to. He has this. He feels very proud of this painting that's been painted to him, of him by Africans at some point. And that, yeah, I mean, I think what was really interesting to me in it, throughout all of the narratives that I extracted was all the biblical references, because we're talking about vision and we're talking about the ability to see, right? And the ability to see is something, so subjective and so fleeting and so impossible to actually quantify. That somehow in all the various narratives, it all comes back to this like heavily religious thing. Like the fig leaf in the room, at some point he says corporations want to use me as a fig leaf, and that was like very interesting to me. I thought like the allegory of the fig leaf implies the gaining knowledge, right? Like, and also essentially implies like becoming human, right? You don't. It's only once they get that knowledge that they can actually even interact on their own, and then God sees them and they need to cover up. And I said, well, that's interesting. Like, how do you how do you see that allegory working in terms of like how corporations want you to function? And he says, well, I'm fine with being a fig leaf, but as long as it's transparent. And that was such an absurdity to me. That was just such an absolute absurdity to me, and it also so much functioned as like this like contemporary situation in how we, this crisis in belief that that we have, like that we really want to believe in certain things, but we're so trained, or we're so kind of used to not believing that we have these tropes fall down from somewhere, and we can turn them into this, I don't know, a transparent fig leaf feels so kind of techno to me or something. Feels so, inhuman, yeah, but still with that kind of original trope, yeah.
Thank you, Beny.
Yeah, thank
Brilliant.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, guys, disperse, relax.